Hello. I thought I'd show a little bit about what I've been doing with I showed the lettuce before. It was small, young lettuce. Now it's growing and maturing, and it makes it good for the meals. Of course, this is the barley grass, ryegrass I'd showed earlier. And what I've done, I've moved my aloe plants outside here and here. I gave several away, probably about, well, I would guess at least another 20 to 25 small plants I had separated from the big plants here. They call the pups. But I gave one of the big ones away because it stores better in this spot here, and much easier. For whatever reason, that one less plant makes a big difference. For me, anyways. I still have some pups to transfer. Here is my little meadow. I don't know how well you can see the whole thing. Here, here, and here. Now, you can see these plants here. How the leaves are on that. It's a field pea of some sort. It has a pretty yellow or pretty purple flower, and the bees seem to love it. I've got it throughout the whole meadow here. Plus I have some red amaranth that'll probably show up later. And what I've been trying to do is, it's kind of a slow process, but the first thing I did was I cleaned out my compost pile. This is my finished compost. This is the second, well, this will actually be the third year. This is the second year. And this is, of course, the initial, I guess you call it, well, the initial pile before I transfer it over. What I do is I let it break down, and then at sometime in late summer, early fall, I'll transfer, well, except for the first one, I'll put that on the garden, which I'll walk over there and show that in a little bit. Over here is, well, I break up the wood. This pile here, I chop it into small pieces, and I'm using it to bury under my raised beds. Kind of a, of course, my meadow. Well, it just breaks down and enriches the soil. At least that's the theory behind it. It's called Hugel, Hugel gardening. Apparently it's a German term. And this here be my raised beds for my Jerusalem artichokes. Of course, they kind of spread a little bit outside of the boxes there, but they're doing fairly well. I've got started on the weeding, but that's be the last big weeding I'll have to do. If you saw the pile in the first year, or my initial pile of my compost pile, you saw a lot of green. That was weeds that I'd pulled, plus from the grass that was cut. This is raised beds. I've got a little bit of that's alfalfa or clover there that I'll probably turn under when I get a chance, but most of the weeding has been done, the worst of it anyways. Here, all this has what I call the Hugel gardening, has the broken up pieces of wood in there, and like I said, to enrich the soil. The only part that hasn't been done yet are these containers here. I haven't decided what I'm going to put in them yet, but I'm going to put in the pieces of wood, the rotted wood, to enrich the soil. And okay, I had over the years, this area all here, and here was all garden, plus the meadow was all one big garden. I found it hard to keep things in, well, weeded well, and I always seem to lose control towards the end of the year. Ever since I put in the raised beds, it supplies pretty much everything that I need, and it also, well, it's like I say, it's all I really need. I had some carrots that overwintered here. And there's one carrot over there, and I had a really nice sized carrot that came out of one of these other raised beds. I can't remember now which one it was, but it was really nice. And I had part of it last night with lentils. And here I've got some more of those, the field peas, and I kind of like to let them go. Like I said, I like the flowers, I like the bees that buzz around and pollinate the garden. So it's been a pretty good experience doing that. Now this is over 17 years of developing this the way I like it. I've got a lot of other things I'd like to do, but for now this seems to be fine for how things work out for me. I guess I kind of wanted to emphasize this because my last couple of videos have been more or less talking about, like healthcare crisis and worrying about other countries that are going to follow the same path we are with the pesticides and the herbicides and the poor nutritional content of the soil and food and what have you. But also, if you want to make your world a little bit better, basically you have to do things for yourself. And I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to emphasize, as well as raise some concerns or awareness. Well, just one last thing I'll mention. I did see that we spent $4.3 trillion on healthcare last year. This is just the United States. And that was 18% of our budget, and I believe of our GDP, and our GDP was like 23.3 trillion. And of course, we spend the most on healthcare in the world, and well, from what I've read, we get the least amount of benefit. Again, I don't know that for a fact, but just working in the pharmacy for the past almost 47 years, I'm gonna have to agree that's probably true. I'm gonna walk into a bit of a shadow here. Again, that's part of my hugel gardening, and of course I have a little bit of this is my maple tree. It's a beautiful, beautiful tree, and I have this area growing around it because I've always felt that when people just grow grass around trees, the tree, and then you mow the grass and you rake the grass and rake the leaves, the tree doesn't get the nutrients that it really needs. Trees don't. And I think that's why you see a lot of dying trees in the yard or in the, along sidewalks and what have you. This is of course, my, solar panels. I put those in about 5 years ago, and my budget for or my spending on electricity's gone down dramatically. Usually during the year, I've been spending around well, it's always been less than $10. It was like $8.74. That was a service fee for each month, and then in the wintertime I must use a little more. Of course, you get less light, so I'm usually spending around $10 or $11 for electricity in the wintertime, which isn't too bad. Of course, part of it is because I'm conservative on my use, so it's going to be that way. But back to my point about the $4.3 trillion we spent on healthcare. If you think about it, if we could spend half that, it would be a wonderful, well, I think it'd be a wonderful thing to be able to save. The problem then, you do that, and then you're going to have to end up cutting out a lot of jobs, and those jobs that are being cut out are going to be, people have to go on welfare and what have you. I mean, there's always the good and there's the bad about things. But focusing on your health takes work. It's not just, you say you're going to do it or you say you should do it. You actually have to participate in your well-being. If you live in an apartment or whatever, you can focus on organic foods. And that's what I would promote because they're usually the most nutrient dense type of foods. I think, though, that you have to be careful because you can always get too much of a good thing when you're eating something. And, well, you just have to pay attention to how your body reacts when you eat certain foods. If you look at some of my other videos where I had discussed how certain foods affect me, you may have similar effects, or maybe you're just young enough that you haven't had that experience of going through that process of knowing how foods really affect you in the long run. And like I mentioned many times, it's a lifelong learning process, and a person should not be discouraged by setbacks because they occasionally occur, and you just have to focus on what it is that is causing a problem, and then look at what you're putting into your body, and then maybe even keep notes. I've kept notes over the years to try to figure out what was causing certain problems. I don't always get it right, but eventually I have enough of an idea that I can make changes that seem to benefit me. And at 70 years old, I'm doing pretty good as far as being fortunate that way. Of course, as you get older, things you can develop more problems if you don't try to analyze and be careful with what you put into your body. Well, anyways, enough of that. Just want to show it's not all just worrying about how poor people treat themselves. It's just also about how you can treat yourself well. Thank you. Bye for now.